Welcome back, everybody, to Keys and Gears. I'm Mark Liesner, local mortgage broker. I'm with Bess Dickson, a local real estate expert here in Texas. And today we're going to talk about 3 simple tips that you need to know on inspection day. So the first one that we're going to talk about is be efficient. The second one we're talking about is trust your professionals. And thirdly, focus on what's important to move you forward in this transaction. So Bess, number 1, be efficient. And what we're talking about is you've hired an inspector to do a job. And what happens if you as a buyer show up on the first minute that the inspector is there? And you start asking
just
questions.
depreciated exponentially the value of your investment.
Right.
Inspections run in Texas anywhere from $400 to as much as $1,200.
Yes.
Depending on the specialty and depth and size. Depending on the number of specialty inspections you want completed, the size of the house, and the type of foundation, among other things, a type of roof, among other things. So something to keep in mind, that's not free money, that's serious money that you're investing to protect your hundreds of thousands of dollars. Make the most of it by letting the inspector have the peace and zen opportunity to get into his flow. You want him in maximum flow to receive maximum benefit.
What I've seen in the past as a former realtor myself, buyers interrupting with questions, the inspector loses focus on what they're doing in that given moment. And they may be inspecting something very critical, important, and you've distracted them. The same thing happens when a realtor shows up and starts conversing with the inspector because they know them, they've worked with them, and they're talking about the weekend and what's going on. No, the inspector is there to do a job. The inspector is there to do your, due diligence on your behalf, and you're paying him a lot of money or her. So let them do the job and be efficient, because the inspector, all that interruption will drag the inspection out longer.
Which already runs about 3 to 4 hours, sometimes 5 hours, depending on the house. I just had a pre-listing inspection completed on
Which should be another podcast. Should we
there you
do a pre-listing inspection or not?
But to give you an example of a 125-year-old home, that took all day long. Most inspectors plan on 2 inspections a day max. This particular home, because of the size and the age and the number of steps on that critical flow checklist, it was an all-day inspection.
So here's something to read between lines. An older home has more critical things to be inspected that you have to look at more in depth, because the systems are older, the structure is older. It takes longer to inspect an older home than a newer home, and just on the foundation alone, most of those are pier and beam foundations, so you can actually get underneath it and review the foundation. That takes a long time to crawl around a house.
Amen. And gosh, just for funsies, we can deep dive further into this little tangent that we have gone
Right.
Another system for $125-year-old home, it may have up to 4 different types of wiring in place.
Yes.
And each of those,
need to be inspected
yet
separately.
Another episode. But all that to say, for a typical home, to make the most of your dollars you're investing in that inspection, you don't want to be at the beginning of that 4 hours.
Right.
However, you do want to be there at the last maybe 30, 45 minutes.
Depending on the size of the house, like you said, if the inspection is complicated, it'll take an hour to go through the report with the inspector. So be efficient about that too, and make sure that you understand when should I show up, and ask the inspector directly, because they're the expert. Your realtor probably doesn't even know, but the inspector will get there and say, this will take me 5 hours, and it's going to take me an hour to go through the report.
And here's a buyer hack for you, free tip, not previously listed, but when you, the buyer, are making your inspection appointment, most inspectors are going to say, do you prefer a morning or an afternoon appointment? And what they're really asking you, buyer, and what you should consider is, Do you want to come and talk with me in person during your lunch break? Because that's generally when they'll be ready, is about 12 noon. All right. Or do you want to come and join me at the home at the end of the day? Do you want to come to the home about 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon? So you, buyer, know your schedule best, that you can take an extended lunch, or can you cheat out of work and maybe head to the home about 4 o'clock to go through that inspection?
I think I would do the afternoon. That way you can have drinks afterwards and, have a couple of
so
cocktails.
there's Mark the buyer saying he'd be an afternoon person. Me, I would probably want to be
morning.
lunch.
Yeah.
Why? Because if the home had something coming up, and here I am putting on my buyer consumer hat and my agent hat at the same time. But if a deficiency came up, I would want to have that afternoon to start tracking down specialists, a plumber if it turns out that there's a leak or that sort of thing. I would not want to lose an entire day in the option period.
Not to mention the inspector will be fresher mentally in the morning than he would be in the afternoon, most likely. So if he's on the second inspection of the day, he's going to be a little more tired.
Real estate professional is voting for morning as well. Okay, but Mark the buyer says afternoon because he wants to have beverages afterwards. Okay.
Now that we have established that, let's move on to trust your professionals.
Trust your professional.
What do we mean by that?
If you're talking about the inspector, if you've done your due diligence, if he has a red flag on something, then dial in on that. If he is saying, hey, I'm reporting this because that is today's building code standard. This home is 125 years old. There was no such thing as a GFCI.
Right.
125 years ago. I've got to call this out, but
it shouldn't even have it. So anyway, that's but you're exactly right. I think trusting the professional's advice, it goes for the realtor as well. To me, it's not just the inspector. You've also hired a professional realtor who also has opinions about these things because they know how negotiations go. And they can tell you that a 125-year-old house, you can't go to the seller and say, I want GFCI, ground fault interrupter circuits, by the way. I want those installed in the bathrooms and kitchen. The seller's going to say, oh, absolutely not. That's an upgrade. That's not something that I'm going to do. That's not a repair. Okay, let's focus on repairs and not upgrading the house to code.
We're focusing on deficiencies of systems, which technically GFCI is a deficiency into the nuance we go, which is another reason why you want to have a professional team.
But they are grandfathered in. Those houses are grandfathered in.
But we're looking for deficiencies in the systems of the home. That's the primary objective, or suss them out. Deficiencies, a primary objective of an inspection, which is, how is the plumbing? Like when you flush the toilet, is the water actually exiting all the way to the sewer pipe? Or have those gorgeous 200-year-old oak trees discovered a free fertilizing source?
Yes.
And have penetrated the effluent pipes? And so the effluent is actually just kind of meandering and kind of not going exactly where we would like it to go.
That's very, very common, by the way. So trusting that the inspector will say, hey, these are things that really need to be done. You know, these are really things that are safety-related issues, for example, or that
could cause a fire, defining safety.
Or the plumbing issue that, roof, foundation, those major things. If they are telling you that there's a problem, listen. Don't dismiss it. And vice versa, if they're saying to you, this is a 125-year-old house, don't pay attention. I mean, you can't pay attention to this, and you should, but this is not something that you can expect the house to have or to be in the condition it's in. Then listen to that too, and not make that your primary issue. Focus on the right issues, which is our next point. But let's finish up on the professionals. What else do buyers, what other mistakes do they make when they hire their professional? Not listening to them, not listening to the advice. What else? What else do you think is important when you say trust your professional?
Right. Confusing parent or other well-meaning friends' advice as being an adjunct to your professional's advice.
Yes.
So often, I haven't bought a house in 30 or 40 years. So it's a different environment and a different expectation. So even though your parents or best friend or whatever, something to keep in mind, every home is unique. Every home is unique. Every situation is unique. So you can hear what outsiders have to say and take it into consideration perhaps, but don't give it the same weight in your decision making as your team that you have taken the time to intentionally place around yourself. Your real estate professional, your lender, your inspector.
Who do this, by the way, every day, all day, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, because real estate doesn't sleep. So
But along those lines, going back to the inspector, look at your inspector or consider him, her, as your general personal physician, right? Going back to, yes, they do it all the time. Yes, they inspect bodies all the time, home bodies,
Right.
homes,
Right, homes. Yep.
versus bodies. But they are not specialists in any one system.
Correct.
They are not also a cardiologist.
Right.
They are not also ear, nose, and throat. There you go. So that leads us to number 3.
That gets us to, you got to have a whole group of professionals, if necessary, for after the inspection to come back out and do additional inspections. So that lets us to number 3, which is focus on what's important, moving you forward. You've fallen in love with this house. You really want this house, but the inspection report came back with some flaws, and every house will have them. So what are we supposed to focus on? This inspection report is 30 pages long, and it says...
I want that house.
Yeah, no, I know that's a short one. The longest one I've seen is over 100 pages,
Yes.
by the way. I don't know how, but
The most I've ever seen is 71.
I've seen over 100 pages, and it was ridiculous. I mean, this inspector
Well, it sounds like a teardown.
ridiculous.
Oh,
No.
that was the
He was
inspector?
being ridiculous.
Like
But
cracked
any-
faceplates or something.
Oh, yeah. All kinds of stuff that was just so nitpicky. And that brings us to this exact point.
Right.
What are the important things to look at versus this inspection report that says, repair on every single page, every paragraph? How do we dissect that, and how do we make sure that we're focused on the, things that are important?
Right. Well, first, you're probably going to have brought a notepad with you to your in-person chat with the inspector.
Hopefully you did.
We have not really talked about why is it worth being at the home in person, and that is a picture is worth 1,000 words, but being in person to be able to go see what that picture is going to show you later when you receive that report generally that evening from the inspector is priceless. Going and seeing the rust in the overflow pan in person and saying that the picture showed it to be like this big thing, and actually in reality it's a little tiny spot on the far corner, definitely changes what your priorities and concerns are. If that makes does that make sense? Is that clear?
100%.
Comment below if Bess is not there. But
No, I think sometimes pictures are misleading. If you saw it with your own 2 eyes, you get a better sense for it.
So you've taken notes while the inspector has gone through it. You've taken notes while y'all have gone and actually seen in person exactly what's going on. Now it's like, say, 9 o'clock at night of the same day of the inspection. You've received the inspector's robust report that's anywhere from 30 to apparently 101 pages. Safety tip on that for your brain and soul, start with a summary.
Yes.
The summary is going to be at the very end. Go through that. Okay, maybe print those pages out of your on your home printer. That's how I coach my buyers. I have them print out those last few pages. Why? Because all of us to a certain degree are touchy-feely, right?
Yeah.
And then you get a highlighter and you highlight, just go with your gut instinct. First pass. Just remember SATs. Go. You want to just highlight what jumps out at you. Remember, because you've already kind of got an idea of what's concerned from your touch and feel experience with the inspector earlier that day, right? So while it's fresh, print it out. Go ahead, highlight it real quick. And then at that point, I'd say, put it down and go to sleep.
Yes.
Go to sleep. Let your brain kind of process it through the night. If you've got a partner that's going through this as well, print out 2 copies. Each of you use a highlighter. In Bess's Dream World, you each have 2 different color highlighters. Why? Because when those papers fall on the kitchen floor when you're talking in the morning over coffee, and you can pick it up and you still know whose pages are what. Anyway, and then what you do, I have found success with my people, is you look at them side by side and you see where both of you highlighted the same thing. Okay, now you're in unison. Now you know really what your priorities are. And you can also ask, questions. Oh, you highlighted that and I didn't. Let's talk about the why on that. But really the 2. And then I ask my buyers to please email me all the double entries, okay?
Where you coincided, where you...
In the meantime, I have done the same thing, okay? And that's where it takes a team, and going back to trust, because then I take their email and print it out and I compare it with my list, and then my response to their email is, hey, well, here's my top 5, and they seem to align exactly with your top 5, so here's the next step. It looks like we do need to call my go-to plumber. We do need to call my go-to electrician. Yes, you are always welcome to call your own people, but these are people that I have found that will respond fairly quickly. Why? Because since I do use them on the regular, they will stop whatever project they're working on and go take care of my tribe.
Yeah.
But yes, you could always use your own contractors and things like that. And hey, 2 opinions are great.
Well, and that as a realtor, my approach was to talk it out, right? So instead of emailing back and forth, I just said, call me in the morning. Let's set a time right now. We're going to get on the phone,
yes.
right? And let's go through the list together. And you say yours, I say mine, and then let's discuss how to move forward with this. And a second part to that is beyond just the inspector, also negotiation wise, because as a realtor, I was viewing it through 2 different lenses. If I was the home buyer, what would I want to have fixed? And then the other lens was, if I was a seller, what would I look at and say, that's fair. Those things are fair, right? And so that's what, as a realtor, I bring to the table to you, saying, you may ask for that, but don't expect that. And let's add some things to that list.
Oh, you're giving away trade secrets.
That the seller
Red
can
herrings
cross
are
off.
effective.
Right. They always are. In any negotiation, that's nothing new. Everybody knows it. Very few people use it, though. Very few people use it. You want to have things in there that the seller can feel like they won. Like they had, hey, I crossed something off the list, because that's part of the game. Let's get real about it. That was part of the game when you first negotiated the contract, because when you first negotiated it, you may have been really hard on that seller, and for you then to come back with 20 things to be fixed, you're probably not going to get any of them. They're going to say, go away, but
I believe the exact quote from my sellers that I hear on the regular is, they already got it out of us,
on the front end.
Yeah. We're done.
Yeah. Or you were really fair in the negotiation and asked for all 20, and see where you land. But, which brings us also to a point that we can get to in a minute, as to what to expect in negotiation. What else moving forward? What else do they need to focus on? Did we leave anything out that you needed to add, beyond just, hey, highlight what you think is important, let's talk about it? Anything else moving forward?
Well, until, I guess, to circle back around in brief, until we get those quotes from those specialists on what the costs are going to be, our negotiation is on hold. Because going back to the fairness,
good point.
You set yourself up as a buyer for failure if essentially you ask the seller for a blank check.
Yes.
I.e., no hardcore numbers, no professional opinion to back up your ask.
Yeah, you'll never win.
Time.
If you do that, you never win. Even if you get a quote afterwards that backs up what you originally said, you're not going to win that battle. So go in with your homework done instead of going half cocked and just saying, "Hey, let's ask."
Just for funsies. Let's ask for a lottery ticket. Let's see what happens.
Exactly. No,
That's the way to
absolutely.
look at it.
So I think we need to wrap up, I guess, with all three of these things. We've talked about be efficient, don't distract the inspector. We talked about trusting the professionals that you've hired. And thirdly, we talked about moving forward. Don't expect to have the seller do all the repairs, but be fair about it. Both sides need to be fair about it in these negotiations, and but make sure you have gotten the important things off that inspection list, because it's going to be a long list of things that need repair, and focus on the ones that are truly important to you owning the house in the future. Right? Did I summarize that pretty well?
Boom. Perfect.
All right. So last point we have today is
what grinds my gears when it comes to inspections.
and
Holy cow.
by the way, the list is endless. What both of us
I have so many stories.
both
Yes.
both of
Let
us
me
could
tell
write
ya.
a book about the inspections that we've witnessed and experienced. But let's go into yours.
I mean, something that grinds my gears on inspections is when I am representing the sellers and the buyer agent and their buyers never show up to do that in-person walkthrough, and then they turn around and ask for the moon.
Yeah.
Because when I have my buyer agent hat on, I know for a fact, as I just shared with y'all, being in person and seeing what those deficiencies are is critical to really understanding the scope of the concern. Why? Because, as we shared, inspectors are required to make note of any sort of deficiency, no matter whether it's small or huge.
Right.
And only you, as the buyer consumer, can discern what qualifies as small or huge to you. And being there in person is a critical piece of that. So yes, as a listing agent, I have pushed back on my buyers and my buyer's agent specifically, to say, we're going to get a second opinion because we respectfully disagree. It is not that big of a deal, and you don't know that because you were not there in person.
So to add to that, as a listing agent, my call after the inspection was done, I always called the inspector and I had two questions for him. First question was, on a scale of 1 to 10, where would you rank this house?
Not all inspectors will answer that question, but
but if they, because I'm not asking them for specifics. I'm just saying on a scale of 1 to 10, and most of them will answer that. They won't go into the inspection report. The second question was the buyer agent or buyer present at the inspection at any point in time? For that very reason that Bess just brought up, I wanted to know, what am I dealing with here? And you already know during the negotiation part on the front end, you already know which agents are going to show up and which agents aren't.
yeah, you kind of do.
So it just confirms.
Are we allowed to say that on
and,
TV? No.
And unfortunately, the same agents are coaching their buyers, in my view, in the incorrect way of saying, don't worry about it, we're going to get a report. If you can't make it, that's fine. My response was, oh no, if you can't make it, then reschedule the inspection. We have to have you there, right? So what else? Anything else on grinding?
On grinding, I think we covered it for today.
Yeah, no, we could go on for another 5
about
minutes.
These
Yes.
things. That's a whole other cocktail conversation.
So welcome, thank you for joining us here at Keys and Gears. Drop us a comment down below or email us at keysandgears@gmail.com. Any kind of topics you'd like to hear about, or if you have follow-up questions on this, we don't mind hopping on a call with you and coaching you a little bit further. So thank you for joining us. We look forward to seeing you next time.